When a game company contacts you to do a sponsored video for an undisclosed real-time strategy game, one can be a little suspect with how often people get scammed nowadays. But after signing an NDA and finding out that it's for Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War 4, you bet your ass I jumped at the chance to get a limited first access to the alpha version of the next installment to one of my favorite games of all time. So a huge shout out and thank you to King Art Games for sponsoring this video. Now you might be asking yourself, what company is that? King Art Games is the same studio that brought us Iron Harvest, the cult classic RTS game set in an alternate steampunk World War I 1920s setting. It was a game inspired by the art of Jakub Rosalski, and if you're familiar with the board game Scythe, then you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. King Art Games is now set to tackle another huge hurdle. Can the company make another Dawn of War that rivals the previous three created by Relic, the forebearer to the series? Well, in my typical fashion of upfronting the knowledge of my videos, let me give you the down and dirty of what we're about to get into. Yes, they absolutely crushed it. Dawn of War feels like all the fun, mass combat mayhem of the first game in the series, coupled with a lot of the tech, leveling, and pace of the second. If you've played all three games, that probably sounds like the perfect scenario. There are hero units, just like in all of the entries, but they're less of the MOBA style that Dawn of War 3 had, and more of a complement to the army, allowing you to focus them to fit specific unit types or play styles. The game comes with 4 factions at launch: Necrons, Space Marines, almost said Space Orcs, Space Marines, Orcs, and AdMech, with appearances from the Astra Militarum helping out here and there. Now, we don't know what those DLC plans look like for additional races, or if there are any at all, but I'm sure there's something on the horizon for some sort of expansion. I mean, we've seen so many to all the other previous Dawn of War titles. There will be a campaign attached to each of the race options, as well as an army painter that will allow you that full level of customization that the game is known for. Unfortunately, my build did not have access to that, so I can't tell you how granular it is. In addition, there will be multiplayer, skirmishes, all the typical game modes that you'd expect, as well as a horde mode where you have to hold a point against waves of enemies. There was no mention of a global conquest mode like we've had in the past, but in closing, I'm beyond hyped for Dawn of War 4. I think it has a lot of the feel of the first game with probably the pacing of the second that people will come to enjoy. A lot of people love the second one. They think it's the best one in the series. I personally love the first one. The third game suffered from too few races at launch and a frantic, more competitive RTS feel. This keeps that power fantasy alive with a lot of great quality of life updates to the original formula while also modernizing the approach. Slated for a 2026 release, I think it will be one of the biggest Warhammer games of next year, or the one we've had in quite a while. But that's the too long didn't watch this entire video. And I know this is the embargo day for a lot of this content across your favorite content creators. So if that's all you want to know, please feel free to shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. If you are heading out, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as that helps me in a huge way. Let's get started on Dawn of War 4, the next best RTS of 2026. So unfortunately, we were not able to capture footage of our playtime on the alpha test of the game. The game is definitely very much a work in progress. We had a lot of things that had placeholder graphics that weren't actually there, and so on and so forth. But we were sent this 3-minute and 37-second B-reel where I'm going to basically bring you through portions of it to discuss certain things that you might be familiar with from previous Dawn of Wars and how they've been improved here in Dawn of War 4. So I'm pretty much just gonna like press play here and let this run. I'll pause and we'll talk about certain things, but we're pretty much just going to be looking at the same footage over and over. And I was only able to play the Space Marines. I did see the Necrons because you actually interact with them as a little bit of the in the skirmish that I played with, and the main enemy we fought against was the Orcs. The AdMech are still very much a work in progress, as I were saying during our an initial interview of the entire game and introduction to all of it. But I'm really excited to talk about a lot of these things, but I wanted to give you an idea of how we'll be approaching this content. So what I want to talk about first is quality of life. The formula and the feel for Dawn of War 4 feels very much, like I said so many times in the intro, a combination of 1 and 2. And when you kind of take a look at this, you can see that this looks very much like 2, right? 1 has the banners and all sorts of cool stuff there, but just gonna see how this kind of plays itself out. There's a lot to be seen in just what we've taken a look at right there. So let me jump back really quick and talk about some stuff from just this shot. So there's a lot of stuff here. You can see that there are a lot of pictures. They all mean a bunch of different things. And these little pictures give me an indication of what everything is. Like, this is a ranged unit. This is a melee unit. This is a specific hero unit. This is a flaming unit. There's a little one. This is like a heavy blast unit. There's one that's like a crack shield that tells you it's going to crack open armor. This is a heavy melee unit that has some kind of Thunderhammer style of weaponry. And Thunderhammer's the easiest one-to-one I can give you. But you get us just a sense right away. These things are engaged in melee combat. These things are shooting right now. So, or are being shot at. I'm sorry, they're being shot at. So you get a lot of cool context tips just by looking. But another big portion of this game is how reinforcement works. Now, if you've played Dawn of War and you've played Company of Heroes, right, or any kind of RTS of that ilk, you know that there is a reinforcement system. The health bar is representative of the individual units that are alive within that unit. And you see this represented right here. As this bar drops, of course, that means those units are going to die individually. And then you can see over here, this has 1 of 1 because this is our commander unit. So obviously he's not going to be able to reinforce additional units into them. And I might be able to, I think if we click forward a little bit, we'll be able to see more somewhere along the line, but we'll get to it when we burn that bridge. Which is not a statement anyone makes. Remember when I said there's the little crack shield? There's that crack shield. So that tells me this thing is going to be particularly good against armor. And it's nice to be able to see this at a glance and be able to go, okay, on the battlefield, I'm looking at ranged, melee. Okay, and ranged. Okay, cool, got it. Like immediately I get a sense of what's going on. But coming back to this guy, you now have the ability to reinforce anywhere on the battlefield. You don't have to retreat your units back to your base and then reinforce. So this is awesome because it allows you a chance to just kind of keep pressure and keep momentum, which was something I never really enjoyed about the Relic version of the RTS. Was always kind of, you'd get muddied, right? You'd press forward and you'd have to kind of take a look at the amount of losses you had and then decide if you wanted to press forward or not. Okay, you know, I suffered 30% casualties across all my army. I have to retreat because I'm just going to attack and force. This allows you to basically set up points where you're going to allow yourself to just regenerate health, reinforce, or what have you. Now, this is the same thing too with dreadnoughts or any kind of vehicle, but it locks them in place. They hunker down and they basically just regenerate all the way back to health, full health, which is great. And it doesn't cost you requisition for the repairing vehicle specifically, but it locks them in place. So if I were to press the button right here, this dreadnought can't move, can't do anything, it just regenerates health. Now, the reinforcement thing is a little bit different this time around. Yes, it's going to replenish and add soldiers back to these units that have the individual units that are lost, but you can right-click it and have it auto-reinforce for you, which I really, really like. It is a bit of a trap, right? It's a double-edged sword. In the beginning, it's going to be beneficial because you're going to have plenty of requisition. Here's your 3 resources at the top. You've got your requisition, your power, and then just your overall population. And in this game, they have implemented an upkeep system. So while this might say plus 375, my total amount of units might cause this number to actually be a slower amount of requisition coming in, because every single unit generates an upkeep. And that upkeep is going to immediately press against my requisition income. And I just, looking at all the little context tips, I really enjoy that. And another big thing though is upgrading. So let me switch over now. Well, hold on. Before we make that step, let me also say, what's nice about a lot of these quality of life improvements is that moving around and navigating the actual gameplay is very tight. It's very good. You can switch these additional stances here to like, okay, aggressive stance. I can just jump into melee mode or range mode just by a simple click right there. So it allows me to have a massive group. I could just go ahead and highlight my entire army right here, right? And be able to have things in relevant stances and not have to micromanage as much. And that was a big quality of life improvement that I noticed, and something that really made playing a lot easier, because I love having a big, huge mixed army of a bunch of different things. I don't like focusing on only one thing. I feel like that always just doesn't really play out so well. So we've talked about that. Let's talk about upgrades and how things really play and how they feel. I'm just going to kind of let some of this B-roll run here. So you can see how this feels pretty devastating, right? You can see there's a lot of impact. You can see some ad mech here going crazy, and it has a lot of chaos attached to it. And it's one of the things that I've really liked about this is a 2 for me just felt too slow. And I felt like, okay, am I really playing a Dawn of War game? We'll talk about this scene in a little bit. But this game, you can see that there's a lot of chaos going on, and things die quickly if you're really not managing them properly. And orcs feel like they're a mass army, right? Like a swarm army, a horde army. That's what I meant to say. And Space Marines don't. And I like that. It feels like I have to actually kind of manage and play the army the way it was meant to be played. And in that army, and if you've ever played tabletop, you know how granular the upgrading system, quote unquote, is, right? Like, oh, if I'm going to choose an intercessor squad, I have like a million different weapon options, a bunch of different underslung options, all sorts of stuff for kitting them out on tabletop, right? Intercessors, heavy intercessors, you got interdictors, you got all these things that end in OR. And the same thing is true here. You get to upgrade units, you get to upgrade your vehicles, and it's done more on the fly than it has been in the past. And it's also less permanent, which is something, by the way, this is probably one of my favorite little shots right here. Look at these blade guard. Wait, hold on. They're coming, I'm coming, we're all gonna do it. Right, dude, look at the Necrons too. Look at those blade guard, look at those dudes. Oh, it's so cool. So, I enjoy being able, as you can see the cannon on that Dreadnought, right, on the Redemptor. It's different on some of the ones we saw before. So being able to swap weapons kind of on the fly is a very nice feature. And it really allows you to, what I didn't like Dawn of War is a really good example. Dawn of War 1, and now the definitive edition's out, a lot of us are jumping back into it. I haven't played the definitive edition yet. I don't know if you can flex this around. It was always set in stone, right? Hey, I'm gonna upgrade with a heavy bolter on this Space Marine tactical squad, because that's the old name for them. And I'm locked into that option. And in the beginning of the game, you're usually dealing with army or soldiers that don't have a bunch of armor. But if that tactical squad makes it to the end of the game, it's not going to take look at those eradicators, dude. They're not going to take full advantage of the heavy bolter, because now they're fighting against armor. This allows you a chance to really jump around, and I like that so much here. Let me see if there's a better portrayal a little bit forward here, because we'll jump back. And you can just see, man, you can see the Admechs going to town, the Castellan robots. Everyone likes squigs. I mean, what's a video about orcs if they're not just punching each other repeatedly? Just all sounding like rubbish Cockney. Look at that, big daddy. So, and this is a little bit of stuff about the campaign, which we'll talk about in its own section. But let's jump back all the way to the beginning here. So what you see is skill and upgrades down here in this corner. If I press any one of those buttons, I get to swap out his armor. His weapon. I get to add additional abilities. It's going to cost requisition. But he right now in this instance has a sniper rifle. I could set him to a stalker bolt rifle if I wanted, or an instigator if I wanted. So you can do that. Or if I'm playing with the intercessor squad, I can have them use auto bolt carbines, auto bolt rifles, instigators. If I'm playing with assault intercessors, I can have them just have no jump packs. I can put jump packs on them. If I've got Terminators, I can swap out assault cannon for I don't remember what the heavy incinerator super duper cannon. I can't remember what the new one is. Or if I bring in a Redemptor Dreadnought, I can switch between the assault storm cannon, basically the old assault cannon, and the new heavy plasma cannon, right? And the same thing with all of the many options, and you can just flex those things around. And I really enjoy that. I like that I can swap things on the fly. You can't do it in combat, right? So you can't kind of cheese it. And furthermore, too, there are some abilities that are going to play well with each other. Like, for example, here, Cyrus is your Space Marine commander, and he's in Phobos armor. I can attach him to a unit that doesn't have Phobos armor and give them stealth as per one of these abilities right here. I think this column right here had a passive to grant anything stealth. So I could basically take an Eradicator unit, put it in stealth, and run all the way over to the other side of the map with them and do whatever I wanted to do. Or use them with Eliminators to just give a 1-2 punch, because he already has a sniper rifle, right? Put him with Eliminators who also have sniper rifles and get a lot of use out of that. So I love the upgrade system, because the upgrade system feels fun and granular, but not lock in and punishing, because the game is pretty, it's a good pace. It's not fast. It's more like Dawn of War 1's pace, but not like the craziness of Dawn of War 3. And I think too, what I really enjoyed a lot about it was how the game felt. So let's close the video out now talking about that overall feel. We've covered a lot, and I want to start this section with this. All of the campaign is done with in-engine cinematics like this, fully voice acted. So the campaign is going to be really exciting. I think it's going to be cool to see a different take for all of these. It's not so much, I don't know much details about the campaign. They just kind of told us, hey, each campaign is different and it's its own thing, versus the Dawn of War 1 campaign or 2 or 3 campaign is kind of the same arc from different angles. And I'm just going to let this play and talk about the game as a whole. So I love a lot of the changes that have been made, and I love that. So for example, here, this is Space Marines. I remember I said I'm gonna stop. When you see this thing drop down, Space Marines, I don't know what the abilities are of all the races. So you see this just drop right there. Space Marines have the ability to create things in reserve, and it drops down a dropship, but it's a Stormbolter dropship. So that thing permanently places itself and acts as a turret to help support you. And you can put up to 5 units in this. They do cost more, but you can basically make it so that you're ready to take a big push, and then you can use those drop pods as an alpha strike into it. And then you have all of your abilities here that you can use as well using command points. And then command points are generated by units, by your actual commander, by hard points. I don't really know everything that generates them just yet, but every army is going to have its own flavor. Like you can see right here with the orcs, they have a big wall. Or if you're looking at all their buildings have turrets on all of them, just like some of the previous Dawn of Wars that we've played with. You can see their ramshackle everything. And it is a really fun and unique way to look at it, right? Like, so they've taken a lot of the beats of previous Dawn of War games. And I think that they've taken a lot of things that worked for a lot of Dawn of War games and said, how can we make this system a little bit better? How can we make this system a little bit more fluid? And I like that a lot because the game feels like it is an amalgamation of a lot of the good things or the best things about a lot of those things. Now, here is one of the most important things I wanted to talk about. And I saved it for the end because I don't write scripts and I didn't think about this. So what you're seeing right now is 2 dreadnoughts going to town on some orc boys, right? And they're just smashing and grabbing right now, right? This game has sync kills. What sync kills mean is basically something's about to die. The game puts it to a special animation for one unit to kill the other unit, that whatever it is. Sync kills are something that was pioneered by Dawn of War 1 way back. And actually, pioneered might not be the proper use, but I know that it was one of the big selling points of the first Dawn of War. But they said, well, what if we could do sync kills right here? We could do sync kills over there, but we can do them on certain bases. But what if sync kills were now contextual? So the way they've actually done this in the game is, and I can't show you specific good footage of it, unfortunately, but things in melee combat will contextually kill things as per what is going on around them. They aren't locked into a specific set of animations that happen on a one-to-one basis. So for example here, let's say an orc is killing a space marine, and there's another space marine behind him about to die. They will contextually do those kills, those sync kills, rather than just locking themselves into an animation overlapping. They will move around the other units that are dying. And I'm explaining this in a layman's way with trying to use as vivid imagery as I can. They showed a lot of really cool wireframe examples of what this looks like, and it looks far more impressive than how I'm describing it. But it looks more organic. Like when you watch a lot of this melee combat, it looks a little bit more fluid than when you've watched it before, which usually ends up looking like individual pockets of units that do one-on-one kill animations. This is more, hey, this is a mass, this is a melee, this is a brawl, and they are fighting and killing each other contextually to how they're moving around one another. And the game just feels so fluid and good. And I'm playing an alpha. So there's a lot of placeholder images. There's a lot of things that aren't in the game. I don't know if all the units are in the game. As you can see too below, you've got this big bar. Don't think of this as, like if you play Total War Warhammer or Total War for any Total War game, right? don't think of this as like, oh, you can only have this many units. Like, it will expand as you decide to add more units. You can do control groups, all the typical things that you would want in an RTS, and kind of do attack moves and all sorts of stuff. So you don't think you're limited or anything like that. You're only limited by your population, which is in that top corner right there. You can see this little guy over there blowing stuff up. I want to call it an intercessor. That's not the name of it. And also, cool, take a look at that. We get some knights. You can see how much fun there is here. You can see how much unit diversity there is. I do wonder if we'll be getting some additional stuff, like aggressors would have been a cool unit to see. I didn't see any of them. Space Marine stuff was pretty, not bare bones, but a lot of the things that you would come to expect from Space Marines now at this point. Intercessors, assault intercessors, instigators, eliminators, eradicators. Like I said, everything ends in OR. You have the Redemptor Dreadnought. You have the baby carriers, as they are so lovingly called. I don't know why I'm blanking on the name of the new name of the tank, the Executioner, the whatever Executioner is what I'm trying to think of. That one of those up here in the corner right there. And that's kind also Blade Guard Veteran and Terminators. So I don't know if we'll be getting Assault Terminators. We just had Terminators that can have assault cannons, so I'm not sure what unit diversity is available come the actual launch of the game. But what is on offer now is pretty solid. I think I haven't seen enough to understand what the actual mechanics of a lot of these other factions are like, or what their other faction unit diversity looks like. I mean, I played against a ton of orcs, and I have no idea what all the units are because I haven't played orcs since I think the year that I played orcs started with a 19, not a 20, and that's really upsetting for me. But the game is good. I think it's going to be better once it gets closer to launch, of course, and I'm excited to see what that launch looks like. I want to get a feel for what Armory Painter is like. I want to know how that campaign plays out. Is there going to be matchmaking? What's our map diversity allowed at launch? A lot of these things are question marks I have, but they're all things that can easily be fixed in time if they are not amazing right out the gate. But everything I've seen gives me such high hopes for this game being an amazing return to form for Dawn of War, after a lot of people's feeling of Dawn of War 3 really not just kind of coming to the fore. And I gotta say too, I like that this didn't start with Eldar. Admech, I think, was a unique choice. I think maybe I would have liked to have seen Tau or Dark Eldar, just because it's a different, unique step away from other Imperium stuff. I just think we've seen kind of the same approach, and I like that this is Necrons and Admech with Orcs and Space Marine. You know, two classics with two of the newer factions that we either haven't seen or very sparingly see in the Dawn of War series, right? Like, yes, I know that that Necrons, for example, are in Dawn of War, but not as a starting race, is my point. So excited to see what the future development of this holds. We know it's coming out in 2026. Let me know in the comment section below. Are you excited about this? What are the things that you're not excited about? Which factions would you have liked to see? Which modes do you want to see? I don't know much about any of the hero options or what's available. I pretty much saw like it's not a big mech, orc boss, an orc boss, and I have a commander in Phobos armor, right? So I don't know if there's any librarian options. I have no idea what Psyker stuff is like in this game, if there is any, like do we have Mad Docs and what have you, what can we play with? But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Again, a huge shout out to King Art Games for allowing me to do this and sponsoring this video. Very, very stoked for the future. And I am beyond excited to see what other things are coming for this game. But as always, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.